Cannot give 51 seconds and counting.
Okay, here we are. Good evening. Welcome to 3D Learner. We hope you've had a really good, 4th of July weekend. It seems like forever ago, doesn't it?
It was.
It is. So we hope you'll join us tonight. We're talking tonight about strength-based parenting, your right brain, your bright, this is hard to say, your bright right brain learner. Let's try that again.
We're going to talk about
Strength-based,
strength-based parenting for your bright right brain learner.
that's what we're going to talk about. So we'd love to have you join us. Love to have you. If you're not listening to us live, please make comments in the comment box. Let us know where you're from. We'd love to be able to hear from you. And this is actually the first part of a multi-part series about strength-based parenting for your right brain learner, your bright right brain learner. I can almost get it out. And we are talking tonight initially about sort of what the characteristics of a bright right brain learner might be. And certainly then as you as a parent, what you need to be able to know. And over the next number of weeks, we're going to be talking about goal setting and what
How to
these
be a
kids.
collaborative, strength-based parent.
Absolutely. So without further ado, welcome. We're glad to have you. Please be a part of the conversation whenever you join us. With entertaining questions, our website, our phone number is available. Please don't hesitate to contact us.
And the
Okay.
other thing is, we have a number of videos that are on our YouTube channel, and it's in the comments section. I'll post the 3D Learner YouTube channel. We encourage you to join us there. And if you have any subjects you'd like us to discuss, email us at info@3dlearner.com. We'd love to
Exactly.
address your specific issues.
All right. So let's start with our 5 core beliefs. Take it away.
So, our 5 core beliefs start with most smart, struggling students are a right brain learner who's a lot smarter than present results would indicate.
So what does that mean, a bright right brain learner? Well, it's someone like me that thinks in pictures, that is much more visual than they are um, just word oriented. So it means that when we're having a conversation, I am downloading a movie at the very same time that we're having this conversation. So it takes a little bit of, I'm going to say bandwidth, but it also takes a little more time to process because I'm processing the entire movie, not just the words.
And it's not just pictures, it's what works for them is often experiential or kinesthetic learning, where they
Exactly.
learn by doing things and experiencing it.
A number of these kids also actually have language challenges that are often present. Now, that doesn't mean they aren't really quick talkers. It means that sometimes they get caught up with not understanding multiple meanings of words, or that making inferences, or not, or the subtleties of language, or getting puns or getting subtle jokes. They sometimes have a difficult time. The other piece they also happen to have there's a lot of talk about this now in every venue, is executive function and or visual processing challenges. So what exactly are executive functions? In a nutshell tonight, which is what we're going to talk about just really briefly, executive functions are just that. Think of the executive at the top of the office building, and it has all of the decision making, all of the planning, all of the working memory. You've got to put all of that together all at the same time to be able to try and make things happen, and especially in terms of school or in terms of social situations or in terms of certainly everyday life. Sometimes that's a really difficult thing for these kids to be able to do. Or more than that, they're also really creative about how they handle planning or doing things. They are not sequential. They are kids that are big picture learner kids, adults. I'm one of those. Big picture learner, give me the big idea and then go back to the ideas instead of giving me just one and then the next one and the next one. That gives me almost a whole lot of anxiety to be able to like, oh, where is this going? So it's these kids that are truly big picture, whole to part kinds of learners.
And one of the things that's strange about these kids, which some people argued with us for a while that wasn't true, but then they discovered it was, is that visual learners often have visual processing problems.
Oh, that would be me.
They're
But
they're often very good at seeing what's out to the side of them, but their eyes tend to have difficulty converging, which means they often skip words and lines when reading. They often miss signs and math word problems, and their handwriting is sometimes atrocious.
they're also, so aside from that big picture, they're also really goal oriented. They're collaborative and we're strength based, and this is where strength based parenting it does make the difference.
But
And
one of the things that's to be critical of is this critical point is many interventions don't work because they neither teach the way your child learns best or they don't address the executive function, visual processing, and other issues, or show you how to be the coach navigate your child needs. So it's really the combination of that goal-oriented, collaborative, and strength-based parent with the right partners that makes the difference.
well, the interesting piece about that, Mark, about the interventions is that sometimes a number of interventions are sort of based on one thing, that they are based on sort of just memory or just reading or just writing, or even just motor skills. And what we've found is these kids need to be able to learn how to be able to work all of that together, and why, let alone the why, about why it is that they, throwing and catching a ball is just as important or is needed when they're needed to be able to read or write, because that visual and that motor system has to be integrated. So we've found, and quite honestly, as you know our story, we got into this because of our own kids, and thousands of kids, and 25 years later, yeah, we have 25th anniversary this year of 3D Learner. We are excited and thrilled to know that there are kids that are 25 years older that we helped that are doing some pretty remarkable things. And I think that's the other piece when we talk about strength-based that we need to remember, that these kids can do amazingly outrageous things. And I'm so excited. So maybe that's the positive piece about all the social media, is being able to keep up and find out what some of our kids are doing, from being actors to being salespeople to being working with wild horses to be, amazing physicians, lawyers, you name it.
And there are people like Richard Branson who's done a phenomenal job, along with Kate Bridge, on labeling these things as dyslexic learning skills. But a lot of these skills, these problem solving, these creative kids who think in big picture, we call them right brain learners, or you could call them right. Some of them are right brain learners with dyslexia, but not all right brain learners have dyslexia. So it gets a little bit confusing.
Yes, that it does. So some of the challenges, we sort of put some of them together, but that when there is a problem, if it is not addressed, and our theory truly is trying to address this holistically, gaps can really widen. And then the biggest problem with gaps is that these kids are usually so smart that they're looking. Remember, they're visually out here looking around their room, they're looking at their peers going, I don't get this. And the one way that they can be noticed is to be able to be the class clown or to have behavior problems. And I will tell you that, quite honestly, we get so many calls from parents that it's the behavior that the teachers are looking at first, not really looking at what these kids can do. And that just breaks my heart, because when we work with them, we're like, of course, they're extremely bright. They are thinking of different ways to do things. And that just was overlooked. That sometimes that their right brain abilities, remember the right brain, again, is that emotional big picture learner. Schools by and large are very left brain, logical, sequential, auditory. So a lot of these kids go unidentified.
And a lot of times the executive function issues, we'll talk about a few of them, just as working memory, processing speed, and attention. They're often addressed by schools with accommodations, but they're not actually working on improving the skills. And all those skills can be improved with natural and effective methods.
Visual processing, I'm one of those. It's like, how can I be a visual learner and have visual processing issues? It's interesting because the processing piece is about my eyes are working. Yes, I can see 20 chart, but the way my brain interprets what the visual cues that I'm seeing could be different. And it's really important to understand those, identify them, and address the issues. And the other piece about this is that sometimes there are, again, we talked about splendor skills, investments can be made in each of these individual areas. And if we don't have someone to be able to put it all together, they rarely result in a child reaching truly their full potential. I want to say a little bit about that strength-based. When we talk about strength-based parenting, it's important to understand how our kids learn, but as parents, it's also really important to understand how we learn. If we learn the same way our kids do, if you happen to have a visual learner and you're a visual learner yourself, you're thinking, I get it. I totally understand my kid. That's really great. Not exactly. I'm that visual learner. I didn't really pick that up and understand that, because the positive pieces and the more challenging pieces about a visual learner is that we lock onto a particular picture. And we're thinking, well, if that's the way I do it, that's the way my child who's the visual learner learns. It's not always the same. It's why making sure that there is an integrated parent training along with how your kids are being trained, that's really important. On the other hand, if you happen to be a logical, sequential, and auditory learner who's a word or a number person, right? Sometimes we get the parent like, oh, that's really interesting, that's really wonderful, but I don't understand. They need to be able to learn like we do. Mark, what do we know about so many programs that try to be able to shut down that right brain so that they think everyone can learn the same way?
Well, one of our colleagues called that medical or educational malpractice. Here's the challenge. What makes these kids special is their creativity, their imagination, their great problem-solving skills. And that's when they're using that right part of their brain to create a solution. When you listen to some of the people say our goal in our program is to shut down that right brain, literally we cringe. And I'm a left brain learner, but I would never want to take away the gifts that Mira has, or that our two kids or our thousands of students have had, who are creative, because I had engineers like that. They were my star employees. I would never want to shut down the genius that's made America and so many other countries great, because people who think outside the box have learned to capitalize on that skill.
As Mark will tell you, I'm going to say, what box? So anytime someone says, oh, you're an out of the box thinker, I'm like, who created the box? And the truth really is trying to truly empowering these kids, listening to how they think, yes, what language and words they use, is vital to understand where they're coming from, and encouraging that creative thinking and guiding it, right? So that's the most important kinds of things that we can certainly start to be able
just, for next week, one of the things you want to tune in for is on the 19th, we're going to be talking about how do you become a really effective, collaborative, strength-based, goal-setting parent for these kids, because it requires a very different skill set.
And one of the comments I'm going to make about that parenting piece is, it's really, again, it's important that you understand you, about how you learn. And then when you're knowing that you're working with your child, this is about your child. This isn't about you necessarily, but it's truly about how you might be able to change your thinking for that moment that you're working with the kids, and be able to help them, yes, through that collaboration. And honestly, having your kids understand how you learn. It's fascinating when we make our kids the teachers and find out how it is that they present things and what it is that they get. So we know, we just talked about the fact that they're big picture learners, that they're really good at goal setting. We're going to help you sort out how to be able to truly make bold goals. Now, this doesn't mean that I am totally blind to where my kids are, what their challenges might be, and that we want them to be able to make them unreasonable. But if we don't have the goal, then we don't think of creative ways to be able to reach those goals. And that's what's really vitally important.
And when we talk about bold goals, when we sit in IEP meetings, individualized education program meetings in schools, and we say we want the kid to make at least 2 years gain in the next year, and the schools tell us to be reasonable, that's an unreasonable goal, Mr. Halpert. And I go, and we are unreasonable goal setters in your definition. We just have to know how to help the kids achieve those goals.
Exactly.
So it's a very different mindset.
Right. Because we know these kids, when we talk about the concepts are quick, they kids get these concepts more quickly when they discover patterns and relationships. And when we talk about it being an aha moment, aha, I get it. Every time I say that, a student in front of me go, yes, Miss Mira, that's exactly what I do. And the parents are like, oh my goodness, I just saw that with my kids. It was like the light going on in their head. That's and the excitement they get that we talk about an upward spiral, that once they get it, they want to keep getting more because they really love the feeling of truly understanding and having other people understand them when they come up with new ideas or when they get the concept that we're trying to be able to get to them.
And they also get emotionally invested when you can improve a non-academic skill. We work on attention and visual processing. And when I talk to a young person who plays baseball or who does dance, and I talk about how it can improve their ability to hit a ball or remember the dance steps, they all of a sudden get excited because those are the things that really matter to them at this point in their life. But when you can improve something that improves a kid's baseball ability, dancing, and academic skills, it really engages them in the process.
I think we're always amazed at what these kids are capable of doing. In fact, a kid who, will come in and the parents will say, oh, my kid just wants to still has a really bad attention problem. And the teachers are just so upset because they have an attention. And we find out they love fishing. They love going out and being outside and fishing. And I'm like, okay, so we need to be able to bring that same feeling of them being calm and what I guess some of us might think is not as stimulating or active or, dare I say, boring. But for them, fishing, and I'm not talking about deep sea fishing, I'm talking about sitting on the side on the bank of a canal, throwing a line of fish line in, right? It's quite remarkable. But we also do know that these kids respond well when they're respected for the questions they're asked and answered. Now, there's a caveat to that.
We've had teachers who said, when we say that the kid feels intimidated because you raise your voices, and the teacher will say something like, I do not. And you kind of smile because you just did.
Right.
It's important for you as a parent to recognize that your tone of voice, which we'll talk about more next week, tone of voice makes a huge difference to these kids because they're very sensitive to facial expressions and to the tone of voice as well as to what you said.
Right. They're also very responsive when we talk about respond to your questions with minimal words. So it is sometimes they're just wanting to be able to have a quick answer because sometimes you will get this dazed look, right? That they're like, you're explaining it to them, but you're just using too much. All right. So we're going to recap a little bit about our strong right great learner. When we ask key questions, have you ask yourself key questions about your child?
Is your child a lot smarter than present results would indicate? There are a lot of kids who are reading 2 years below grade level, and their intelligence is such that you think they'd be a year ahead. That shows real potential.
Right. Is your child right? Go ahead.
Is your child a right brain learner? Do they learn best when they see and experience information? They have great memory for what they've seen and experienced, and are they creative and imaginative kind of kids?
And then what is it that you would like to know about how you can make the difference for your child? As parents, we know we all want the best for our kids and we all want them to be happy and be successful. And I guess our whole goal is to be maybe more whole brain learners, but truly going towards their strengths. How can we help you be the best parent you can be to that right brain learner. And oh, by the way, if you have more than one kid, there's no guarantee that all your kids are right brain learners. They're all kinds of learners. We just know that these are our specialty. These are who we've worked with for over 25 years now. We know these kids pretty well.
Know that probably over 60% of the kids are right brain learners. So
Right.
if you have a smart, struggling kid, there's probably an 80 to 90% chance they're a right brain learner. So that's why this is so critical to both know, understand, and not only match the programs with your child, but it gets down to the basics of how do you actually talk to them and what's the picture you're trying to create.
That's exactly right. So Mark Kidd said this a little bit about a lot smarter than present results. Remember places they visited even from years ago. When we ask this of parents, it's fascinating to get their, oh my goodness, talk about a light bulb that they're so excited about. Oh my goodness, my kid remembers when he was 2 years old and where we were. From certainly learning from hands-on. This we've used as a cartoon that Dr. Linda Silverman has put in her book, talking about sort of the visual spatial learner and the brilliance about, and this can be girls and boys. It just so happens that this is the way it works here, but it's sort of do you pull out the pieces and read every step of the directions before or do you instantly know? Maybe not so instantly, but know that that this is what it's supposed to be at the end, and that you start to be able to find the pieces and put it together. I'm not sure what you mean by ID, but we'll figure that out. Sometimes it's like that. So go for it.
Okay. So if you'd like more information, at our website, 3dlearner.com, the one is a download our strengths and challenges overview. If you'd like, we offer a no-cost conversation. You can talk about reading comprehension or anything else that's important to you. You can either just call us at 561-361-7495 or click or 3dlearner.com/book now to actually schedule a call. And join us again. It'll actually be July 19th. We'll get the slide straight. July 19th, where we're going to talk about how to be an effective, collaborative, strength-based parent.
Right. Thank you for joining us. We're glad you joined us tonight or through this next week. Please let us know what we can do to be able to help you. Don't hesitate to call us. Have a wonderful, safe summer.